Are you able to see my screen? So we can come over to Trace and we're going to better understand how to read this directionally. Let's go to yesterday and
All
let's take
right.
a look because yesterday was a great example. Also, while I got you here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to also put this um, this YouTube video into the chat. And this is JT. He's from our team, and he does Fishbone and Wishbone. And this is all about Trace. It's an hour and a half long. It's a phenomenal watch. I have watched it twice myself,
All
and
right.
we'll come back over here to Trace and we'll take a look at what yesterday was showing us. Okay, so obviously we opened up here at 7,500. This is SPX, but it translates to ES. So if you're an ES trader, this is really all that I use. I take zero DTE off because I like to see what the market structure is going to be looking like for the entire day, and then I toggle between regular market structure and then also between zero DTE GEX too. So because I want to see, what's going on within the zero DTE realm. So when we're taking a look at this, we have negative GEX over here. We have our first positive gamma bar at 75.25. So at the same time, we have our hedge ball at 75.10. So above the hedge wall, volatility tends to dampen, and below the hedge wall, so above this, volatility tends to go down, and then below the hedge wall right here, volatility tends to expand. So what we can understand here is typically when we come to the volatility trigger, I don't necessarily have a trade at that level specifically. I normally let it go right through it to see where we're going to go. But first point of resistance is going to be 720 or 75.25, at least based upon zero DT. I like to toggle back over. 75.25 is also going to be there. Now, this is a minor small position, so I don't think that we actually get to 75.20. So I would assume that anywhere between 75.15-ish, I would assume the move would stop. Now, with negative GEX, we can always accelerate in both directions. So with this, we can understand that if we come up to here and we start to move back down, and especially if we're looking at the hero, and the hero is this purple line right here, if the hero starts to aim down as we're moving up, I would assume that we would come back through and retest 74.80. So we're looking at directions here. As of right now, do I have a trade? When we're sitting up here at 75.11 and we come over here to 75, let me zoom in just a little bit. So 75.11, and this is 75.10 over here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take this trade because the risk reward, I don't want to get stuffed for 10 points. I would much rather see if we're going to revert back down because as we come into here, we can accelerate through. This is only a 98th percentile strike. That's 99. This is 97. Let's go to zero DT and see if anything's telling us there. That's a 98.8. That's not a 99 there. 98.
Do
Okay,
you
so we have
recommend to use the trace? Well, you have it in market makers mode, but I see it has four modes. I think client and another two one. I don't remember the name. You think customer per customer? So you think is better watch it that way in market makers, or
So the best way to do things is market makers, in my
all right,
opinion. And
all
I
right.
think everyone agree that like everyone would most likely agree with me on that one. Can you toggle between, broker dealers, firms, and pro customers? Yeah, absolutely. But who's going to be the main individuals that we're looking at here? The market makers of ES, SPX. I want to know what they're going to be doing and what their positions look like because a pro customer may only have one position on. Market makers are going to be spread out throughout the entire S&P, and we're going to be able to have a better understanding of direction. Where with pro customers, I have no direction. With broker dealers, I have no direction. And kind of like the trace video that I just sent you,
Okay.
that's going to be utilizing the market makers as well. Now, the other thing that you can use is, I mean, you can go over to customers. So to give you an idea, if you're in customers, if you invert customers, this is so customers inverted is market makers. So, because you got to think, a market maker is going to be on the opposite side of every single trade. So, if
Yeah,
I
yeah,
buy
yeah.
calls, a market maker is going to be selling calls against me. Well, I shouldn't say against. Bottom line, they're going to be there to make a market for me. So, I use market maker. Do not invert that market maker because it's going to make things very difficult for your life. But with this, directionally speaking, I would be looking for a test of 74.80. If 74.80 doesn't hold, then 74.70. So, as we're going through the day, notice one thing that I would spot as a divergence here is prices starting to move up. That's great. Hero is in free fall. So
Yeah.
negative deltas are coming in, which means people are buying puts, they're selling calls. And this is you can change this from so I have mine on S&P 500. It could be on S&P equities. So with that said, hero is our main indicator. And obviously what you're going to want to do is you're also going to want to have it open over here as well. Because so personally speaking, so like say if you have S&P 500 on your trace, I will have S&P equities up, which is not loading for me right now. Give me 1 second. That's because I'm on today and that doesn't show up until then. So S&P equities agrees. As you can see right here, the light blue line and the dark blue line are aimed down, and the green line and the orange line, which is calls, are being sold. So into this move and everything like that, we have everything confirmed that we should be going down. Now, since we know that this here is aimed down as well, that's a lot of negative deltas to be paying attention to. Anything over a billion within about a 30-minute time period is something that you're going to want to be paying attention to. So just keep a billion in mind. That's a lot of deltas, and that tends to move our markets. And with that being said, I would have most likely, I would think the risk reward to the upside here wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And based upon this structure, I've seen this a lot. Sure, there's a lot of positive gamma up here, but what we're going to want to see is do these reduce? Because if positive gamma starts to reduce, then we have a chance to really, really fall out of bed here. So as we move throughout the day, let's pay attention to our bars over here. Okay, so perfect right here. We have these reducing back. So therefore, I don't view this as a target anymore by any means. I think the short to the downside made a lot more sense in the morning. I didn't have a chance to take that because I was doing things for spot gamma here. So with this, we have the chance for so as JT would say, negative gamma cuts both ways. So we're positive gamma, we tend to stick or stay a little bit more in place. So negative gamma is going to accelerate price action, and then positive gamma is going to slow down price action. So with this, we could slam through, and I mean with no stopping all the way. And mind you, this little positive gamma of 74.80 that I said could be our first stop. Now it looks like our first stop is 74.70. If 74.70 gives way, that's a very thin book. There's not much here. I would assume the next stop would be 74.70. So think of Trace as an if-then type situation of if we get down to 74.70, let's pay attention. If we're short, that'd be an area where, you could take some profits. Say you're, short, say you bought, three on ES and everything like that. Take one off, take a little bit of profits. Or say you bought two spreads to the downside and you were 15 wide on SPX. And so therefore you bought the 75.15s and you sold the 75.00s. And since you had two of them, let's go ahead and take one off at 74.70 and leave some runners because obviously
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't know if we're going to bounce through 74.70 because once we bounce here, if hero decides to turn back up, we could rip right back through this area right here. So this is my area of interest. But if this gives out, then we could definitely test 74.70 or 74.40, excuse me. And so let's go ahead and let's proceed throughout the day. Let's get to about 10:12. Now we got some areas growing up here or starting to build here. So 74.30 is now 99th percentile. 74.40 is still an area that of interest. And then we also have 74.25. That's still 99th percentile. None of these are 99th percentile strikes. And the reason why I said, we want to pay attention up here, notice how much that gamma has reduced. Sure, those were here in the morning and everything like that. But the moment you start to see these start to contract, that means
Yeah,
we now have a lot of room to the downside because we no longer have that magnet to the upside. So with that said, we're in free fall here. Heroes confirming everything. That bounce, that's nothing. I mean, we're talking 10 handles and then 74.75. Let's see when we get down to 74.70, what does price action do for us? So we're at 74.74 here. This makes it down to 74.70 and we start to bounce. Now, at the same time, This bar is now reducing. So if this starts to reduce all the way back to where, say there's nothing here, then we no longer have support and your next stop would be 74.40. Let's continue to progress throughout the day. So decent bounce off 74.40 all the way to 74.85. Say you're a scalper. Once again, that's your area of interest right here. We could bounce and that could be 15 handles for you, 10 handles. Sometimes when I'm scalping, maybe I only get five. So, I am here for the 5 points if I can get them, and especially if I can be correct directionally. But now that we're up here, the thing is so say we're at 74.85 right here. Do I have a trade? Do I want to get long right here? Not really, because we're in a lot of negative gex, so it doesn't make sense. I want to see where we're going to be going. I want to see us get back down to 74.70 and see if we can't target that 74.40. I like good risk reward here. Now, if you're scalping to the downside, 70 74.85. Yeah, 74.85 down to 74.70. You could take that short. Do I think the risk reward there is very good? Not really. But at the same time, if you see an opening on like a 2 minute, where moving averages are starting to cross and you want to take that trade, I'm not here to knock that. So, everybody's different. I heard a very important quote that, has really stuck with me. And there's a million ways to make $1 million in this market. You just got to pick one. So as far as I'm concerned, if you want to catch that 15 handles, fantastic. But since we have this gamma reducing, is this still a bounce point? No different than a support and resistance trader. The next time that we come to this, could we bounce again? Maybe, or do we slam right through it? We're going to want to pay attention to Hero. Now, Hero was the indication here that showed you we were going to bounce. So positive delta started to come in. Could have been a little bit of short covering for 15 handles. Let's see how we
Yeah.
continue to progress. And we come all the way down here. Now, with this thin book here, again, I am still targeting 74.40. So, during that 15 handle bounce right here, if you were already short from up here, I would just be holding on. I wouldn't have necessarily taken a new trade or anything like that. But I did discuss a new trade, so I figured, I'd discuss it. So as we come down here, we're now looking to target 74.40. Let's see how the day progresses. Oh, decent bounce. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, and we're just starting to bounce up. Okay. Well, Hero, once again, so I wasn't actually at the desk yesterday trading, so I am doing this for the first time. I have no idea what happened yesterday. And so Hero is going to be our guide here. Obviously, calls are being bought. Could we retest 75.05? Yeah, potentially, absolutely. So let's see how we continue to progress throughout the day. Yeah, still bouncing. Bottom line, yeah, Hero cuts back and everything like that, but it keeps making, higher highs and everything like that. So that's a lot of positive deltas to the upside.
One thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
First, how do you interpret the open interest for example, you have the in the trace you have the that in gex, right? But
Yep.
what about the net open interest? Um, does it matter? Is it necessary to watch continuously or what? Yeah, and about
Yeah,
the flow.
I would say absolutely because
Because I have a lot of strikes of negative gamma, for example. No, but maybe one strike is full of I don't know, market maker selling calls, and the other one is selling puts. I don't know how that affect the price or what will happen when the price reach that level. I don't know if is it something that I should be watching
now
when
the
in the
reason
market.
why I open this up is so for instance, say, there was a time period back in the day where like Captain Condor would come in. So let's say this was Captain Condor right here, right? Obviously it's not going to be him, but
All right.
if you weren't checking zero DT net OI, now he would come in and he'd come in for 3 days. So the first day he would come in and let's say he bought the 75.45s and he sold the 75.50s. And then he did, let's just say he's 100 wide. And so therefore he bought the 74.45s and he sold the 74.50s down here with confidence, you could say by knowing that he was in that position the first 2 days, and I kid you not, man, like every time we would tag either the upper bound or the lower bound of his condor. And I mean, we would slam through it. And since he would lose 2 days in a row and typically have to, double down for that third day because he did a martingale strategy, it gave you price targets. So yes, I would most definitely say that you're going to want to be, using net OI. We saw the other day when there was a Trump tweet. Someone decided to buy a massive put spread. Now you wouldn't have known that someone bought a massive put spread unless you opened up net OI. So you're always going to want to
All
be
right,
checking positioning.
all right. What about the flow signal? Do you use it? Is
Are you talking
it
about are you
good
talking about the
to
flow
take to
signal
take?
within Hero?
Yeah. Is it good to use it to take trades, or it's like a confluence, or I don't
So
know.
the
Some.
way the way that I
Mhm.
interpret flow is, so what it means is there's a significant amount of options, and what it can mean is there can be an inflection in price. And when I say there's going to be an inflection in price, it means we could either reverse. So say we were down here and you had a flow signal right here, right? That
Yeah,
means maybe the selling's over and people are getting ready to hop in. But
yeah.
again, I'm always going to tell people you're going to want to wait for price confirmation, because if you jump in front of that, it could be very wrong, and it could be, you get the flow here and all of a sudden it's more flow to the downside. So
All
it
right.
just means
Yeah.
that there's a significant amount of options, but pay attention to where we're going to be moving directionally. And yes, you can take a trade against that. It's just a matter of make sure and wait for price action. So that way, you can confirm that you're on the right side of the trade. And that way, you're not just sitting here being like, okay, well, we bounced 5 handles. And then out of nowhere, there's just a massive amount of put buying and call selling, which can drive us lower. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And that section, the flow data, where you see the tape. What about that?
Oh
Well,
yeah. Yeah, down here.
yeah. Is it watching that kind of traits? How come that helped me? It's a what I've always been wondering, because well,
So
I see that speed of tape, that's a lot of trade. Yeah, I could filter to watch more big trades, but I don't know if there is an opening of a trade, or is the client closing trades. So I don't know. I don't know the best way to use the tape.
okay, so the best way to use tape, and now I'm a massive tape trader. As a matter of fact, the reason why the tape tool is here is because I use it so much. I actually requested Spot Gamma to, come out and bring us tape, and they're a very accommodating team, and they did a great job of making sure that they brought tape. Now, where I would be using tape, so I'd be using it underneath the S&P 500, and the thing is, I would come over here to columns, and that's not what I'm looking for. Where is my customized tool? So we have contract data. Filters. That I'm an idiot. There we go. We want filters is what you want. And so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come down to size, and I want at least 1,000 contracts so I can dole out a lot of the noise. I'm going to leave buy and sell on, and I'm going to leave put and call on. Now I'm going to apply these changes. And what are we looking for out of the tape down here? Is if you see consistent, and I mean rapid fire, to where
Yeah.
someone is really coming in, and the main one that I watch is SPX, and you can do that to where you can filter out SPX. All you gotta do is come here and type in, if you so this is still going to show everything. So SPY and SPX. So I'd pay attention to SPX and SPY. So if there's someone coming in and hammering, thousands upon thousands of contracts on, and look for at the money strikes. Don't look for, like for instance, when we were here at when we're up at 74, 79 and everything like that. If you see someone come in and buy a 7,200 put, that's noise. That's not deltas that we're going to worry about for today. What you
All
want to
right.
worry about is someone like a Jane Street stepping up, and Jane Street is a high frequency trading fund. And what they'll do is around like 10, they call it the 10 a.m. slam. And so like they'll come out and say they buy, you know, you'll see it rapid fire. It'll be like 1,000, and it's all going to be at 74.70, and they're just going to hammer it, and then they're going to sell futures against it. So when you see someone pop out to that magnitude, to where it's like, holy smokes! Now, how can you tell, who's a magnitude? The way that you can do that is, I need you to watch the SPY tape. I need you to watch the SPX tape on a daily basis. And I need you to start to identify what is unusual. I've been watching SPX tape for over, shoot, 6 years now. So like when I see something come out, I'm just like, well, that's not normal. I'm used to a
Yeah.
normal tape. That is not what I want
Yeah.
to see. So
All
therefore,
right.
you can infer directionality from that. Now, at the same time, you may see that to where a high frequency trading fund comes out and they start selling a lot of puts. That can put in a localized bottom. There's a lot to take away from tape. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can pop over here and, like on single names. Do you trade any single name equities? Like, do
No,
you
no, no,
trade
no.
Tesla? Oh, okay.
No, 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 no. Not for the moment.
I was gonna say because Tesla is gonna give you a great idea of, where it's going to be going. Is someone coming in and buying, call spreads? Are they longer dated? Are they shorter dated? In Flow Patrol, there was a guy that last Tuesday, it was for DRAM, and he bought the 50s and sold the 30s for August 14th, about 53,000 contracts. And no one that I know even flagged it besides Brent, which is awesome. And bottom line, that guy ended up in the money. So I mean, this guy's 2 weeks out with damn near close to $8 million. I mean, what a super trader. That's so
Oof.
excellent. I can tell you that wasn't me in Flow Patrol. That guy was certainly not my trade. So I look for, those types of things to be able to infer how this is going to be happening. Where could we potentially go? And that guy bought that on a negative gamma bounce on DRAM. So DRAM was up about 2 to 3% on Monday into Tuesday, and he took that massive short and was very, very right.
Wow.
I highlighted a guy in Unusual Flows in the Discord, which I do hope you're in the Discord, and it was for REPL. It's a biotech. Please be careful around biotech. That's the only stocks that you'll see that can go down 95% in a singular day. But at the same time, Ripple was at $2.50. The guy bought 25,000 of the twos and he sold 25,000 of the tens for December. So I was looking longer dated on biotech. They had just fallen like 85%. Ripple ended up going from $2.50 to $12.20 in 60 days. I am looking to infer where the big guys are going to be setting up there. And that's how I utilize tape. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
All
I
righty,
got you.
boss. Well, we are out of time and everything like that, but I really appreciate you being here today. I hope you stick with Spot Gamma. If you have any questions,
Nah,
please
thank you
feel
for
free to
your time, Luke.
yeah, absolutely, man. Please feel free to reach out to me at luke@spotgamma.com. I'm here to help out, here to help you with any questions that you may have. And, as far as I'm concerned, no question is going to be considered a dumb question. I want to be able to make sure that, you're sticking around and that, we're all being profitable as we trade.
All right, Luke. Have a good
All
day.
righty, boss. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.
Take care. Take care.